What is going on, Jig and Junkies? Today we are going to be making a lure to catch trout on Big Spec out of 2 Turnt Tony's Bougie iced teas. First thing you gotta do is make a hole in the bottom of the can. So any sharp pointy object will do. You just stab right through to get that first cut. And then you're gonna need a pair of scissors. What you're gonna do there is just cut around the entire bottom of the can to get that off and out of your way. So one full through cut around. Use a dull pair of scissors that you don't plan on using again because this will definitely ruin them. Cool. You get a little bit of a shred job like that. The next step is we have to make sure that this lure is actually able to move in the water like a typical trolling spoon would do. So that means we need weight at the top, a little bit in the middle, and the hook at the bottom. So what we're going to do is cut along the side of this. Alright, and that's going to get us all the way up to the top of the can. Now once you get there, at the top of the can, what's important here is it has the thick ridges. Now cans are made of aluminum and trout bite really, really hard. So in order to make sure that when we get a fish, it's not ripping through, we need to use this part of the can. So now, we clip through the can with a little bit of heavier artillery. Now that that's done, you look around the can and there's a whole bunch of different options for what would make a nice, pretty colorful trolling spoon. But I really like the blues and the pink stripe we got going along the side here. So we're gonna try and work. Make sure if you do attempt to do this yourself, you're pretty careful with it because there's a lot of sharp edges on the can. We don't want anyone getting cut. You can actually get quite a few different designs out of these really awesome cans. Unlike a typical trolling spoon, that's a little bit of like a thinner metal. Aluminum is really, really light, and so I want these to be a little bit wider and a little bit longer. Lengthwise, I'm thinking 2 to 4 inches is the right range that I'm going to want to have. So I'll probably cut the can in half. Right around where there's the no trash sweeteners sign. Now, this one in particular, I'm going to make a little bit thinner and longer just because I'm going to have a variation to see what's going to get the fish to bite best. And I think a nice long thin lure with these nice stripes is going to get them to bite pretty good. So I'm going to cut along the edge of that to really narrow it down and just kind of neaten up along it. Okay, so now we have a nice long little piece of the can. It's got the stripe in there and it's got the hard top to make sure that we can now start to add the other pieces we need, which is really just some little swivels to attach the hook in the can to and a 3-prong to put on the bottom. So to make sure the placement of these is really nice, I'm going to shape the lure however I want. And you could do it in 2 ways. You could either follow a typical fish design where it's pointing at the bottom, but for me, I want it to be nice, smooth, and round, just for the purpose of this particular one I'm making. So, neaten up with the scissors, try and smoothen that off. Next, we're going to take a hole punch, and for the bottom of the aluminum you want to make sure that you line it up just right so it's at the end, but there is enough that you can actually fit the swivel and the hook through it. So center this nice and carefully here. And like that, now it's right in the bottom. Easy for this to pop through. And now that that's in there, I got my free floating triple hook at the bottom. The last step now, guys, is mixing some epoxy up and attaching the weights where we want to on the spoon, and then letting it dry so we can go get those fish. This is the time lapse of the epoxy actually setting and hardening onto the lures now, and this is going to be super important because once this is all set and dried and done, the lures are now going to move perfectly through the water column, evenly distributed by the weights that I have attached. We're going to get out in the water, hopefully find these big old fish, and catch them for you. Now that we have had a whole bunch of lures prepped and made, like and subscribe to go catch more fish, folks.